guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. So today we're going to, go right back to where we were in the trial, Wade's trial. We are at the penalty phase, and I want to pick back up there. We're going to continue to look into his crimes before the trial, but because that takes some time, and also some of the specialists in the trial take some time, I don't know exactly how that's going to look. We're just going to go with the flow and, as I decide, we'll do it. So today we are going to skip our little comment section segment because there's a Patreon live directly after this live where we're going to talk about the stuff that was found in his cell and take a closer look at some of those pictures now that we've all watched the trial together. I do have a post up where I'm giving away some memberships, and I'm going to give away one or two, I think, during this live. So make sure you, if you do enter one of the giveaways on the post, keep an eye on that so you can email me and get the link. I'm thankful for Melissa for showing me how to do the Patreon giveaways. That's a new thing that's Patreon is offering. So yeah, and then in the chat, as we watch today, I want to give away one or two more. And yeah, so that is the plan. We're going to start and immediately jump into the penalty phase. Like I said, I have it here pulled up because we have opening statements, and then we have Kristine's best friend and it looks like Diane's son. We have some family and friends of the victims that are going to speak, and I really want to get through that today before we go over to Patreon. So here we go. I will link the channel we're watching on in the description and in the chat. But at the end of this, before we go over to Patreon, I am going to take the 5 minutes it takes or whatever to go in and add the links for whatever. So it's easier to skip around in the video for things you may have missed. But okay, so here we go.
Present.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Sarah Miller, Andreas Gardner on behalf of the state.
Kevin Shirley, Mr. Hollander, and Ms. Perez on behalf of Mr. Wilson.
All right, Mr. Perez, if you'll put your full name on the record for us.
Gwendolyn Perez.
Thank you. And the defendant is present. We're ready to proceed this morning.
We do just have a few issues we want to put on the record. Mr. Shirley and I spoke. We have all three of our experts sitting in the courtroom. The state has Dr. Michael Herkov over here. The defense is Dr. Hyman Eisenstein and Dr. Mark Mills. When we go through the diagnoses and the records, all of the medical records regarding mental health are from the jail. They cannot be characterized any other way. Defense has agreed with that. So the issue is we've asked the experts to just refer to them generally as jail records or incarcerative records so that there's no mention of what he was in jail for or why. But I just want to put that on the record. That's what we've agreed to. The experts understand that. They're not going to go into great detail about why he was there, but the records are critical in this part of the proceeding.
Okay. Mr. Shirley?
She's absolutely correct.
Okay. So no objection, and you stipulate to that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Wilson, you're aware of that as well, and you're okay with that? Okay.
And Your Honor, the other, there is a letter that the defendant's sister wrote. It's not admissible given that it's hearsay. However, she was not flown in for this part of the proceedings, so the state is not going to object through that being admitted through their experts. So I'm going to put that on the record as well.
So the state stipulates to the admission of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, in addition, under 921-141, hearsay can be admissible in the penalty phase. So, but we appreciate the state's stipulation.
All right. If the state's stipulating to it, then that's fine.
There is also a proffer Mr. Shirley discussed with me this morning regarding some photos. So I don't know if we want to do that after the state rests in the penalty phase or if we want to do that now.
I would rather do it as we get ready to close our case.
Okay.
Now remember, oh, look here. Isn't that Alexis with the red hair? I think there are a lot of wives that showed up for sentencing. So remember to look for that. And also, oh gosh, there was something else. And then I lost my entire train of thought. So here I am pausing for nothing. Let's keep listening. Hopefully it'll come back to me.
If I may.
Explain a little bit more about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've got some photographs of Mr. Wilson in both individually and in a family context as he grew up. We don't have anybody here that was present when the photographs were taken that can say that they're fair and accurate depictions.
I remember
with the
now.
exception of Mr. Wilson
Oh, wait a
himself.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson has the absolute right not to testify. I'm going to proffer them. Mr. Wilson's going to invoke his right. I want them part of the record, but just proffered so that they're part of the file in case post-conviction proceedings come down the pipe. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay.
All right.
But I don't want to do that right now. I'd rather just do it at the time that you inquire of Mr. Wilson as to whether or not he's going to testify.
Right.
Okay.
All right. And just, I guess, while we're on that subject, Mr. Wilson, as I stated before during the earlier phase, you have the right to testify or not testify. It's your decision. No one can make you testify if you don't want to. No one can tell you to testify if you don't want to. So it's only your decision. No one can tell you, and no one can prevent you from testifying if you want to. That's what I meant to say.
Seems he has some trouble looking at the judge directly in the face.
So
Not
just
surprising.
bear that in mind. We'll have that conversation at a later point. Does the state have a copy of the preliminary instructions that were agreed to? And I guess, have they been agreed to first, the preliminary instructions?
Those were the ones that the court provided us last time that we were before the court.
Okay.
The state did not have an objection to what the court had presented to the
Okay,
state.
so
I can print out an
let's
additional copy
go.
if the court would like.
Yes.
Very well.
Since we are, it's just, they're kind of just doing housekeeping, we're going to skip to where they start.
All right, please be seated.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. By show of hands, was anyone on the jury unable to follow the court's previous instructions about doing any research, looking up anything, or discussing anything about their service as a juror on this case? Seeing no hands, we're ready to proceed. Members of the jury, you have found the defendant guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The only issue before you in this phase of the trial is to determine the appropriate penalty. The penalty for each of these crimes is either life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how this proceeding will be conducted. The attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the penalty phase of this trial. What the lawyers say during opening statements is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. After the attorneys have had the opportunity to present their opening statements, the state and the defendant may present evidence. The witnesses may be called to testify under oath. If so, they will be examined and may be cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits also may be produced as evidence. This evidence, along with the evidence that you heard during the guilt phase of this trial, is presented for you to determine whether the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the alleged aggravating factors. If so, you must weigh whether the proven aggravating factors are sufficient and whether the aggravating factors outweigh any mitigating circumstances the defendant proves by the greater weight of the evidence. Finally, you will decide whether the defendant should be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or to death. At the conclusion of the evidence and after the argument of counsel, you will be instructed on the law that will guide your deliberations. An aggravating factor is the only circumstance recognized by Florida law that could result in a defendant receiving the death penalty. An aggravating factor increases the gravity of a crime or the harm to a victim beyond the harm inherent in every first-degree murder. You must unanimously agree that an aggravating factor was proven beyond a reasonable doubt before it may be considered by you in arriving at your sentencing decision. The aggravating factors alleged by the state in this case are: 1, Wade Wilson was previously convicted of a felony and was under sentence of imprisonment or on community control or on felony probation at the time he committed the first-degree murder in this case. 2, Wade Wilson was previously or contemporaneously convicted of another capital felony or a felony involving the use or threat of violence to another person. 3, the first-degree murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. Heinous means extremely wicked or shockingly evil. Atrocious means outrageously wicked and vile. Cruel means designed to inflict a high degree of pain with utter indifference to or even enjoyment of the suffering of others. The kind of crime
Okay, so just a second. I did a Patreon giveaway in the chat. There has been a winner, and it was guess a number between 1 and 200. I purposely did not do 11 or 111 because that's what I would always choose, and I think that if you watch regularly, you might know that. But the winner was Hells. It was 144, and we will do another one. So in a little bit, but Hells, if you could give me an email at the bottom of the screen, send it to Alex Erickson. I will make sure to shoot you over the link before the live starts. And then I just want to say a quick thank you to Curious Kristine for being a member for 6 months. Time really does fly. Pointer Lover for being a member for 35 months. And then Tobeans, thank you for being a member for 10 months. And I just really appreciate you guys supporting me and my channel. It means a lot to me, so thank you. Okay.
Intended to be included as especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel is one accompanied by additional acts that show that the crime was consciously or pitiless and was unnecessarily torturous to Kristine Melton or Diane Ruiz. 4, the first-degree murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. Cold means the murder was the product of calm and cool reflection. Calculated means having a careful plan or prearranged design to commit murder. A killing is premeditated if it occurs after the defendant consciously decides to kill. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law does not fix the exact period of time that must pass between the formation of the premeditated intent to kill and the killing. The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. The premeditated intent to kill must be formed before the killing. However, in order for this aggravating factor to apply, a heightened level of premeditation demonstrated by a substantial period of reflection is required. A pretense of moral or legal justification is any claim of justification or excuse that, though insufficient to reduce the degree of murder, nevertheless rebuts the otherwise cold, calculated, or premeditated nature of the murder. Once the state has presented evidence of the existence of aggravating factors, victim impact evidence may be presented. Such evidence is only presented to demonstrate the victim's uniqueness as an individual and a loss to the community by the victim's death. However, victim impact evidence must not be considered by you as an aggravating factor.
This is just kind of want, but we're going to
A
listen.
mitigating circumstance can be anything.
We are going to listen to it because I think it's important to listen. He's explaining the penalty phase to the jury, but for us, and people who aren't, I actually haven't watched a lot of trials that go into a penalty phase, a couple, but not a lot. So it is, good to listen. And then let me say thank you. Janice came over from Melissa Jade's channel. Love your coverage. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you're here. And thank you to Melissa for sending so many of you guys. I really appreciated that. And then Shauna, thank you for being a member for 18 months.
It might indicate the death penalty is not appropriate for the defendant. It is not limited to the facts surrounding the crime. In other words, a mitigating circumstance may include any aspect of the defendant's character, background, or life, or any circumstance of the offense that may indicate the death penalty is not an appropriate sentence in this case. Whether a mitigating circumstance has been proven is an individual judgment by each juror. A mitigating circumstance need not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but must be proven by the greater weight of the evidence.
I think this
After the evidence has been presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the attorneys, the court will instruct you on the law. After the final instructions are given, the alternate jurors will be released and you will begin your deliberations. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion until you have heard all the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, and my instructions on the law. Until that time, you should not discuss the case among yourselves. Your decision must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. During the penalty phase, the court may take recesses, and you would be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, tell him or her that you are on the jury and ask that person to stop. If he or she persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to the bailiff, who will advise me. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you're in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other electronic device is actually off and not in a silent or vibrating mode. You may not use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about the case or the people involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure your cell phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you must not communicate with anyone outside the jury room. You cannot have in the jury room any cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices. If someone needs to contact you in an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay. A contact phone number will be provided to you. The penalty phase must be tried by you only on the evidence presented in your presence.
Have any of you guys sat on a jury?
Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you are in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the penalty phase. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. Do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the penalty phase. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face-to-face, you must not talk about this case by using an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or your jury service. Do not discuss this case or ask for advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog. What are the reasons for these rules? These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for the case. The parties likewise have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered against it and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror.
Can you imagine what that must be like to sit on a jury for a crime like this? Because, not only could be pretty traumatic just for the jury members to watch, but not only that, you have this weight on you because you are deciding about another human's life. And it's not just how they're going to spend their life, it's if they have one at all. So, yeah, I can imagine that would be extremely difficult.
Unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity that our judicial system promises. Any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result that would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. From the exercise of the defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference regarding the existence of an aggravating factor or an appropriate sentence, and the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your sentencing decision in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and the trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had the witness been permitted to answer. It may be necessary to confer with the attorneys out of your hearing to discuss the matters that require consideration by me alone. It is impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such conferences occur, they will be conducted to consume as little of your time as is necessary. Yeah, counsel approach. Ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Shirley, is defense ready to proceed?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, Nurse Kristen, that is so freaking sweet. Thank you. It asked us today, Patreon wrote that post out for, it asked, do you want to share that people can gift now? And I said yes, and it had the whole post. I just created the title. But thank you. That is really freaking sweet. Thank you.
Good morning. A little bit over a week ago, when we first met, the defendant was unknown to you, and he was presumed by every one of you to be innocent. That's now changed
Here we go.
because collectively, unanimously, you all have heard the horrific, graphic facts of this particular case and determined him to be guilty of each of the charges with which we've charged. The phase of this trial is penalty. The state of Florida is asking you to sentence the defendant to the ultimate penalty, and that's death. Not all murders are first-degree murders, ladies and gentlemen. Not all first-degree murders warrant the death penalty. It's only those murders that the state proves beyond an exclusion, and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt, whereby a first-degree murder is aggravated, that death is warranted. Now, a little bit over a week ago, the burden was on the state to prove the first-degree murders beyond a reasonable doubt. And this week, it's our burden to prove the aggravation of those first-degree murders beyond a reasonable doubt. In this phase, we're going to focus on what makes this first-degree murder aggravated. Now, as the court instructed you, before there is a sentence of death, you must unanimously agree that at least one aggravator, just one, has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. We are submitting to you four aggravators. 4 aggravators for one of the first-degree murders and 4 aggravators for the second first-degree murder.
It's so interesting, isn't it? So if they find that he's guilty of one of those aggravating factors, then technically he is a candidate to get the death penalty.
Ladies and gentlemen, 3 of which, on each, you've already decided. It was inherent in your verdict. 3 of which have already been proven. 1 you're going to hear about shortly here today. First 2 I want to talk to you a little bit about One is called cold, calculated, and premeditated. Second one is referred to as heinous, atrocious, and cruel. Now, these might be aggravators that you may have heard about over the course of your life, but I want to go through them with you. The first one is called cold, calculated, and premeditated. Now, what this factor forces you to do is it forces you to essentially consider what his plans were and what his intent was at the time of the killing. Okay? The aggravator forces you to consider what he went through for the killing. Okay? And the evidence that we've presented to you during the course of the trial already proves this factor.
You know, we read the email last night from the woman to the judge, and I know Melissa's going to go through. Apparently, there are a lot of those. And as I sit here and listen to that, to this, I think about that, and it just infuriates me that I don't think these people, well, I mean, they had to have paid attention because like the one we read last night, they were pointing out parts of, things that were evidence during the trial and trying to explain it away with the most bullshit junk science explanations I've ever heard. But it's really frustrating because, some of them did watch, and I think a lot of them are not very clear on the actual details, the facts of the case. But I don't know that there are many people that are more evil, than him, truly.
It involved three things, ladies and gentlemen. And I would submit to you, he selected, he secluded, and then he strangled. That's what he went through to establish cold, calculated, and premeditated. Remember what he said. He was a lion. They were his prey. He could sense it. It just took him 2 minutes. They wouldn't scream. They wouldn't yell. He wouldn't get hurt. He wouldn't get scratched. They couldn't get away. Even if they wanted to, he was too strong. Those were the people that he went after. On the 7th of October of 2019,
Howard, pansy,
he went after
bitch.
Kristine Melton. It started at the Buddha, right? He calmly befriends her. He goes up to Miss Johnson, who's your friend. He introduces himself as JR. He doesn't introduce himself as Wade Wilson. No. He introduces him as JR. He gives a fake name. He calmly befriends them.
I hadn't even thought about that till he said that. He gave a fake name. Did he have the intentions of committing some kind of crime all along, or was that just like a usual thing for him? Also, John, you're 100% right. Common sense isn't something that grows in everyone's garden. It's just not. That's the truth.
He's selected Miss Melton. That's who he was going after. He gains her trust. They go outside. He could have gone home with Miss Montanez. No. He chooses to go with Miss Melton. Where? To Mr. Shepard's. Where they become.
Hey, Riley. So the penalty phase, Valerie, is for the jury to decide if he's going to get life in prison or the death penalty.
Intimately involved. Where they subsequently leave and they go back to Miss Melton's apartment. And what does he do there? He waits. He waits for Miss Johnson to check with Miss Melton. Are you okay? You good? Yeah. Why? Because Miss Melton has put her trust in this person. She's been intimately involved with this person. He's waiting. He has selected her. Miss Johnson leaves. There's no cause for concern. No triggers, no red flags. Why? Because it's charming, right? 9 times out of 10, it works. It's worked here. Now he's got Miss Melton all to himself. He's managed to seclude her like a lion with his prey.
Can I have counsel approach for just a second, please?
Oh, Jesus. And look, there he goes up there again. So yeah, I'd heard that Wade went up to the front every time counsel approached, like for a sidebar with the judge. He was part of that. I've never seen that before. I mean, not that it's good or bad, but interesting. Hey, Shelly Bean. I hope you're having a good day at work. Bye, John. Have a good evening. Thanks for coming by. All right, let's just see here.
The evidence during the course of our guilt phase showed you. He waited. What did he tell his father? He waited for her to fall asleep. And then what wound up happening? Well, he waited because he told detectives he doesn't get scratched, doesn't get hurt, quiet, they don't yell, they don't get away. It's too strong. What does he do then? He goes ahead and inflicts blunt force trauma upon Miss Kristine Melton. And then he goes ahead and places his hand around her throat, applies pressure until she is dead. Remember the broken nails? Ladies and gentlemen, long, drawn-out nature and circumstances surrounding Miss Kristine Melton's death is cold, calculated, and premeditated.
Hey, Grace.
Her.
So this is not going on today. We've been doing a trial review, and we are now at the point where he's been found guilty. But basically what this is, and I was going to say this to you guys anyways, this is the prosecutor's reason. What we're listening to is his reasons in, in a shortened version, because we're going to hear some witnesses and different testimony, but for why he believes that Wade Wilson doesn't deserve to live, why he believes that Wade Wilson should die for what he's done. And, I know that opinions might be all over for the death penalty, and that's fine. But if anyone was to deserve it, I think he's a pretty damn good candidate.
He secluded her. He strangled her. Cold, calculated, premeditated also applies to Miss Diane Ruiz. Remember what he told detectives. I've already done it. I'm going to do it again. That's what was going through his head. Cold, calculated, premeditated. Hours later, that same day, he's in Miss Melton's car. He comes across Miss Ruiz. He tells detectives the way he approaches her is he asks her, "Where is the school?" He calmly befriends her, manages to get her in the car. What does he say? He says, "We drove to the school? I was going to drop her off, but in my mind, I knew that I wasn't. And as soon as she was going to get out, I grabbed her by the neck and choked her. She came back to life 3 or 4 times." He didn't do that until he secluded her, ladies and gentlemen. He selected her, secluded, and then strangled. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but according to him, she came back to life 4 times. And he told you he was not going to let her go. He told detectives, "I was going to drop her off, but I knew in my mind I wasn't going to." That's cold, that's calculated, that's premeditated.
Now, I feel like I've got a damn good grasp of this case. Everything that's happened, up to this point in the trial. Every witness, I could give you like a brief explanation of who they all are. How did what is it, 4 times that she came back to life 4 times? I've missed that somehow, and maybe that'll be something that we'll hear, but let me know if you're in that same boat as me. Yes, Amethyst,
Heinous,
he
atrocious,
does.
and cruel. The law says it is one that is accompanied by additional acts that show the crime was conscienceless, pitiless, and was unnecessarily torturous to Kristine Melton nor Diane Ruiz. It focuses on the means and manner in which the death is inflicted and the immediate circumstances surrounding the death. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we submitted those photographs of those injuries, okay, in addition to the medical examiner's testimony, is because those pictures demonstrate what words can't do justice to in terms of heinousness, atrocity, and cruelty of these murders. Both Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz endured a high degree of pain, utter indifference. It was outrageously wicked, vile, and shockingly evil, according to the jury.
What is the documentary that's named that? Because every time they've said it today, that's like what it puts me in mind of. Like, I know there was a recent documentary. We know that Wade wasn't feeling remorseful or regretful. If we look back, and if you guys have watched, and maybe if you haven't, he was interviewed by police at the jail. Apparently he had a call with his dad, and that he encouraged him to get a guard and ask for detectives to come to the jail, which they did. And in this interview, he doesn't realize that Diane had already been found or was being found at that time. And he is asking to get a burger and fries and a milkshake in order to show them where her body is. And they start pushing back on him and telling him, no, for one reason or another. I don't know if I can. Can you point it out on a map? And he starts to get angry. No, I want to see what I've done. I want to go. I want to show you where she's at. No one will ever find her if not. And I want a damn burger and fries and a milkshake, basically. These are my words, but I'm summarizing what he said, and his words were very close to that. He's not remorseful at all. And as a matter of fact, he wanted to see, again, what he had done. Also, we know because Melissa had gotten the FOIA request, he had all the crime scene photos and discovery photos taped up on his jail cell door, and that's why I wanted to take a closer look at those while we're on the Patreon live, because it might not be, it's a sensitive thing. So I just think that that's probably the best way to do it. But yeah, I don't know.
Instructions.
He's just evil. No remorse.
With regards to Kristine Melton, what did you learn? She had a large number of bruises around her body and on her face. She had swollen eyes. She had contusions. She had bruising all over her torso and her arms. She had hemorrhaging on her neck. She had scalp bruising all over. When they removed it, all over. Dr. Coyne described that the blunt force trauma that was inflicted upon Miss Melton was so significant that the force that was directed towards the outside of Miss Melton went to the inside. Okay? All the forces went inward to her body. And what did you hear? You heard about contusions to her lungs. You heard about her liver. You heard about her bladder. You heard about her colon. You heard about her brain swelling, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the brain swelling? The doctor specifically said that didn't happen after the strangulation.
Yes.
It happened before.
Meaning your brain can swell when you're strangled, sure, but that is not what happened to her. Kristine had brain swelling that would have occurred before the strangulation, and the doctor explains this. She had injuries and bruises all over her head. He beat her viciously.
And that's all prior to the strangulation itself. That's before he puts his hands around the throat, applies pressure to the point where her life leaves her body. High degree of pain with utter indifference. beat her, he strangled her. He didn't care whether she lived or died. That is utter indifference. We get to Diane Ruiz, right? What do we know from her? Fracture of the nasal bone, bruising on both sides of her body. We know about bruising to the back of her forearm, the back of her left hand, the broken finger. We know about, contusions on her upper back. We know about the hyoid bone broken. We know about the tracheal cartilage also being injured. We know about the multiple rib fractures, not only in the front, but also in the back from significant compression.
Running Bear, he did have crime scene photos on the door. Now, not of the victim at the crime scene, but like aerial view of where her body was found. Some of the pictures that were shown at trial, the exact photos to show you the area, things like that. Photos of the phones, like clothes, just all kinds of stuff like that. And if you're interested, you can go over to Melissa's channel and see those. I know she has like a pre-recorded video about it, so you don't have to sit through the live stream. So, because it seems like some of you guys haven't seen those, I'm going to drop her a link right now and take a look at her videos list.
And then we learn about the hemorrhage to the back of her neck, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we learned that the struggle was so intense that Dr. Coyne said, when we looked at the autopsies of both women from the internal and the external examination, he learned, and now you, that their struggle for the last moments of their life was intense. And we know that he showed utter indifference. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to be putting on evidence today with regards to cold, calculated, and premeditated. We will not be presenting you with any further evidence of any heinous, atrocious, and cruel, because quite candidly, the evidence is already before you and is in a matter of the record. Now, the court is also going to give you an instruction that says you're going to hear about the defendant was previously or contemporaneously convicted of another capital felony or a felony involving the use or threat of violence to the person. Ladies and gentlemen, this too is inherent in your verdict and has been proven by the evidence because of the contemporaneous convictions for first-degree murder.
Harley, you bring up a good question. Are crime scene photos available to FOIA as well? Can these women see pictures of what he's done? So yes, typically those photos are available to be FOIA'd in some places. Now, certain states like Florida specifically has a law against putting photos out that have, if it's a minor. And, every state is different, but we've seen in Colorado, they literally released a child's autopsy photos. So you can get case files. You can request like these interviews that they played at trial and different things like that. I haven't seen someone that's done that with all of the case information, but we did it with Letitia's, with some of her stuff, not the autopsy and stuff, but just the case files, the police reports, all that kind of stuff, and then went on to get her jail records as well next after that. But yeah, depending on the state and the area, you can request and especially with adult victims and get a lot. You would be surprised.
Involving both Miss Diane Ruiz and Miss Kristine Melton. When you found for one, you also found for the other and vice versa. Let me explain. He was contemporaneously convicted of a capital felony. Capital felony is first-degree murder. You found him guilty of first-degree murder, not once, but twice. Met that portion of it. Or it's a felony involving the use or threat of violence to the person. First-degree murder, ladies and gentlemen, is a felony involving the use of violence, threat of violence to the person. So as you can see, you've already found that as well. The one you're going to hear about today is that the capital felony was committed while the person previously convicted of a felony or under a sentence of imprisonment or on community control or on felony probation. You're going to learn that the defendant was on probation for a felony out of Palm Beach. He was sentenced on September 18th, 2019, just 2.5 weeks prior to these murders. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear victim impact. You're going to hear and that it's not evidence of aggravating factors. Okay, what it does show is it does show the uniqueness of Ms. Melton and Mr. Ruiz and the resultant loss that their death caused the community. Now, the judge is going to instruct you in this trial about the process that you'll have to undergo. Okay, and process you have to undergo to determine your sentence
Now,
is that there's no matter.
listen, we are getting really close to the defense's opening statement, and then we'll hear from the friends and family, and then we're going to go over to Patreon. But I am really excited to hear from the defense because they barely put on a case, right? In the first half, they didn't do an opening statement. We barely heard anything from them. So it looks like their opening statement is not as long as the state's, but it's not super short, and that's going to start in about a minute or two.
Mathematical equation, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? That you have to understand.
Bogart.
It's just a weighing process. It's where you get to determine the weight, the substance of the aggravation, and you get to compare it with the mitigation. That's it. During the course of this case, you may have been thinking, you know what? I'd like to know a little bit more about Mr. Wilson. And what we expect you'll hear is that you'll hear from some doctors, and we expect that the defense will put on and tell you that the defendant has some mental health issues. And we expect that they'll blame some of his history, and they will be offering this to you.
And that they did. 6 hours of doctors
We expect as
testifying
mitigation
back and forth.
for the murders of Miss Kristine Melton and Miss Diane Ruiz.
If you look here on the playlist while we're listening,
Now,
you can see.
the law that you will hear and that you heard during jury selection, and that you're going to hear again after, you're going to be instructed that this doesn't compel you, okay, or require you to determine that the defendant be sentenced to death. It does neither of those things, okay?
And here we go.
The question before you, ladies and gentlemen,
Buckle up.
is whether the aggravation, once fully proven,
Cereal mommy. Yeah.
is whether it's sufficient to warrant.
Also, we're going to keep your eyes on the chat. We're about to do another Patreon giveaway in the chat. And I want to do like a Patreon giveaway for people who are already members to try to pay for a month of your Patreon, which I've done that before through like Cash App and stuff. I don't know if we can do it with this gifting new thing that they're doing. So I'm going to look into that. And if so, then just look for a post later for that.
The death penalty.
Okay, here we go from the
Ladies and
defense.
gentlemen, on behalf of the state of Florida,
Oh, Eve, I would love that. Thank you so much.
it is.
Also, please email me your TikTok too. Oh,
Sure.
Thank you.
got it.
Good morning. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to you since jury selection, so I've looked forward to this.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Really, bro? What are you, new at this?
I'll
Wow.
take up with him when I get back to Charlotte County.
I have that pinned now, Eve, so I'm definitely going to go check it out after this. So thank you so much. And yeah, I would love that.
Thank you.
Here we go.
This is opening statement. I want to caution you on one thing. Anything that the state says, anything that I say in either opening or closing isn't evidence. We're going to have remarks to you. We're going to have a lot more remarks to you in closing arguments, because that's what it is. It's argument. But please, we're not trying to deceive you or mislead you or anything. We're sitting here listening to the witnesses. We're taking notes. And maybe we heard it different than what you heard it. There are some remarks that Mr. Gardner just made to you with regard to evidence that came to your attention. I dispute some of those, but we're going to argue those later in this particular proceeding. You use your recollection. You've been taking notes. You get to take notes again during this part of the proceeding. You get to rely on other jurors' recollection of the facts and circumstances as they were presented to you that resulted in the conviction of Mr. Wilson, and you rely on those. Don't rely on the state or I to be 100% factually accurate in all of our representations to you. On behalf of myself, Mr. Hollander, Ms. Perez, more particularly Mr. Wilson, we want to extend our appreciation. What we're going to be asking of you is probably going to be one of the most difficult decisions you'll ever have to make during your lifetime. We know that. We appreciate it. You might be a little bit, confused wouldn't be the right word, because as you sit here, you know there's only two possible penalties. One is life in prison, which means Mr. Wilson would go to prison for the rest of his life. Mr. Wilson will die in prison, or the death penalty, in which case Mr. Wilson will die in prison. The state has told you that they're going to primarily rely on evidence that's already come to your attention. Well, we're going to do that too when we're arguing against the aggravating factors. I'll tell you right from the start, the state has one aggravating factor. I'm not going to argue against it. The fact that there were two homicides that were committed contemporaneously, that's one of their aggravating factors. To argue against that would be ludicrous, and I wouldn't want to try and mislead you. The other one is the fact that Mr. Wilson was on probation at the time that this offense was committed. The beauty of this particular law is that you get to determine what weight you're going to give to these aggravating factors versus the mitigating circumstances. Obviously, we dispute the cold, calculated, and premeditated. The judge has already read the instruction to you. I'm not going to read the instruction in its entirety because this isn't that part of the trial. But please keep in mind as you're contemplating these things that it requires a heightened level of premeditation demonstrated by a substantial period of reflection. This isn't just a spur of the moment type of thing. Oh, something pops into somebody's head and they act upon it. It requires a substantial premeditation. We'll get into the argument on that later, and I'll be able to show you examples from the record. The other is with regard to heinous, atrocious, and cruel. That isn't the jury instruction. The jury instruction is especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. And the judge has already given you instructions on what heinous, atrocious, and cruel means and given you examples in the instruction. But the judge doesn't give you and is not going to give you an instruction on especially what makes this particular offense worthy of even your consideration of the death penalty. Why is this that one case that stands out? And you're going to have to make that decision. And that's the big decision with regard to that aggravating factor. Now, you're going to hear some mitigating circumstances. And we've already talked about this. We talked about it in jury selection. The reason they're called circumstances and not factors is because they don't have to be proven beyond every reasonable doubt. They only have to be proven to you by a greater weight of the evidence, a little bit more than not, as we talked about in jury selection. Among the mitigating circumstances, Mr. Gardner even alluded to it. You can take all kinds of things in Mr. Wilson's life and treat them as mitigating circumstance.
Tell us about
things that you've heard about him from the record seem horrendous. But if you go back and you recall the testimony of the witnesses, and this evidence has already been shown to you, when the witnesses were questioned about what Mr. Wilson was like when he's not on drugs, he's charming, he's polite, he's cool. I didn't know they still use that phrase. He's in a good mood, he's friendly, he's outgoing.
What?
These are all mitigating circumstances that you can take into consideration when you're weighing them against aggravating factors. The other type of mitigating circumstance that you can use is mental illness. Now, we have two doctors that are going to testify before you here shortly. Dr. Hyman Eisenstein, who's seated over there, he is a neuropsychologist. He will tell you what a neuropsychologist is. He'll tell you what his education is. He'll tell you what his
So that's one of our three doctors. It looks like they both brought one, and then the state brought a rebuttal.
He'll tell you why he is a person that can make judgment decisions and give you his opinion as to somebody's mental status. He will tell you that he met Wade Wilson, went and sat with him on a couple of different occasions. He'll tell you the batteries of tests that he had Mr. Wilson perform. He'll tell you he'll describe what the tests are and what they're designed to do. He'll tell you how Mr. Wilson did on each of these tests, and then he'll tell you what his conclusion is. I'm
So will the other two doctors that the state brings. So remember that, jury.
not going to tell you, but I expect you to sit and listen. And I apologize in advance. Some of it may not be exciting stuff like some of the things that you've heard. It may be closer to that testimony like DNA evidence, but I know that you're going to pay attention because this portion of the trial is critical. It's critical to you and it's critical to Mr. Wilson. Then we're going to have Dr. Mark Mills testify. Dr. Mills is a psychiatrist.
Yes,
He met with Mr.
yes.
Wilson on a couple of occasions. They didn't get to perform any of the tests that Dr. Mills wanted Mr. Wilson to perform. But he, like Dr. Eisenstein, did a lot of background research, contacted relatives of the defendant. It went over the discovery, went over numerous records from other sources, and he will tell you what his opinion is with regard to Mr. Wilson's mental status and why. Now,
To be fair, he is very intense, but I have it on 1.2 speed because I just wanted to make sure we got through. I want to get through like an hour and a half worth of coverage, and then with me pausing and stuff, it adds quite a lot of time. You'd be surprised. It can sometimes double the time. So
we anticipate that the state is going to provide another doctor, Dr. Herkov, who likewise is going to get up there and tell you that he met with Mr. Wilson and he has reviewed documents prepared by my two doctors, and he'll tell you what his conclusion is. And then you're just going to have to decide which one of the doctors you're going to give the greater weight to as far as formulating your opinion. But I want you to be able to sit and write this down when you hear from these doctors, the different terms that they're going to use. We anticipate they're going to use terms like schizophrenic and bipolar, hallucination.
I have not watched ahead. So schizophrenic, I'm going to watch the doctor. I'm not going to play all 6 hours. I'm going to go in and find the most important parts. I feel like that's a lot of testimony you guys might not want to listen to. A lot of times the doctors can put you to sleep anyways with, all the extra stuff. So I want to take that out. But the fact that he brings up the terms you might hear are schizophrenic and bipolar, that's interesting. Hallucination, paranoia.
Adjustment disorders, a suicidal, paranoia, delusional. They're going to tell you what those things mean. Then you're going to have to figure out whether or not Mr. Wilson's mental status rises to the level of your consideration to allow him to live. We're going to try and display to you what the thought processes were that were going through Mr. Wilson's head when these events occurred,
You get my comment?
why they were exacerbated by the consumption of controlled substances. This isn't an excuse for what happened. You've already decided that he killed these two women. We're not trying to excuse his conduct. We're trying to explain to you why somebody who's charming, polite, and cool would have done this. And it was something other than taking drugs that made it beyond Mr. Wilson's control.
We're trying to explain to you how someone that's polite and charming and cool could have done this. Yeah, because they're a psycho. See, psychopaths can be very charming and polite and cool while still being psychopaths.
We believe that after
Pissing me off, you guys.
there's a letter you're going to have an opportunity to read, a letter that was drafted by Mr. Wilson's sister that was provided to both of our expert witnesses, that they took that into consideration. They had a chance to talk to his sister. They had a chance to talk to his mom and dad. They got background information that I don't know that Dr. Herkov has, but nevertheless, they have it. And along with the other documents that they've reviewed, they'll tell you how they took that information into consideration. We believe that after you have entertained our mitigating circumstances, you will go back there. You'll do what you need to, have discussions amongst yourself. You'll figure out what facts are really facts and which recitation and closing argument is a variation of the facts. We believe that you will come back.
Okay, who knows?
The only recommendation that you can, once you finish that weighing process.
Here we
That would
go,
be the
you guys.
recommendation.
Now, I do want to just warn you what we're about to watch. I assume it's going to be really tough testimony, really tough to listen to. And, these trials are a roller coaster. You go through boredom listening to some experts and doctors. So you go through anger listening to the prosecutor and the police. You go through sadness and grief, listening to these loved ones of the victims, loved ones of Wade as well. So just know that that's what we're getting into now.
Of life in prison where Mr. Wilson will die. Thank you.
Sit.
I call Ms. Lisa Lansky.
Here we go. Now, first we have Samantha, Kristine's best friend and cousin. And I will timestamp these like I usually do in the description for people on the replay or people that want to go back. So, yeah. Okay, here we go. Samantha, Kristine's best friend and cousin.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
May-
Good morning.
Good morning.
You could just speak up so the
Good
jurors
morning.
can hear
Good
you.
morning.
Please state your name.
My name's Samantha.
And Samantha, do you have someone standing next to you in court?
Yes, this is my husband.
How did you know Kristine Melton?
She was my best friend and my cousin.
Now, did you prepare a statement about what Kristine meant to you and your family?
Yes.
And before you read that statement, I want to direct your attention to the screen. Did you send some photos to the state that you would like the jury to be able to view?
Yes.
And these have previously been stipulated to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct? The defense? Hold on. Yes.
This is going to be sad.
No objections? All right.
Brave of
Is there
her
an
to
exhibit
get
number
up
for
there.
these or anything?
Yes, Your Honor, it'll be PowerPoint States Exhibit 4.
Okay. No objection to that PowerPoint then being admitted into evidence and published?
That's correct.
All right.
So if we could get the bill to the top of the screen. Thank you.
Imagine having to do this, right? To speak up for your loved one, to stand up and humanize them and show, hey, he didn't just take Kristine on paper. He took Kristine, my loved one, and here are photos of us. And here, oh God, it's just sad, man. I just cannot imagine how scary that would be, especially in any trial like this, but especially when one has gotten the attention like Wade's has. I don't know. My heart goes out to her.
Okay, and Samantha, who is this a photograph of?
That's Kristine Melton and my daughter wearing outfits that they got for Christmas to match.
And what did the shirt say?
Do good.
Samantha, would you please read the statement that you prepared to the jurors?
Yes. Kristine Melton was my best friend and my cousin until October 7th, 2019. It is my task to describe this beautiful human and to somehow capture Kristine in a way that 12 strangers and 2 alternates can understand, using only my words. And I will do so sitting no more than 20 feet from the convicted, who beat Kristine, murdered Kristine, and threw her away like garbage. I hope you understand this is not the ideal scenario to be sharing personal stories, although you would have loved them. There are no words to describe the absolutely lovely Kristine Ann Melton, but I will try. She was precious, not just to me, to everyone who knew her. She was a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a niece, and a cousin. She was loved, and her life had value. Kristine was remarkably funny, had a quick wit, and an entirely unique personality. If you were with her, you laughed. We laughed every single day. When you were with her, you felt safe and understood, never judged. She was a relief to your soul just to sit next to her. She had a way about her. Children loved her because Kristine was good and they could feel it. She wasn't an aunt. She was the aunt. Kristine was the godmother of my son, and it was her greatest honor and one that she deserved. Our children miss her in ways I could never articulate, and it is gut-wrenching to see them so destroyed. They were robbed of her. Kristine will never experience motherhood, a role she was born to play. Kristine was strong, brave, independent, and loyal. She was the friend you wished you had. She was the friend who got more fired up about your problems than you did. She was fiercely protective and always on your side, even if you were wrong. Kristine loved traveling and exploring the world. She would buy plane tickets and figure out the rest later. She loved camping and concerts and Halloween and a themed party of any kind and celebrating life and accomplishments. Kristine adored her mother and loved being with her. They were two peas in a pod. They were the same and different in all the most beautiful ways. They lived less than 1 block apart in 2019 when this occurred. Every relationship or friendship she had was special because she was part of it. She was a cheerleader to us all. She loved us unconditionally, completely, and with her entire being until October 7th, 2019. Kristine's mother has not been at this trial. Once Kristine was murdered, she was never the same. How could she be?
How could she be?
Her health declined quickly. She left Florida and has now cared for her son in Maryland. Kristine's mother is my godmother. She is special just like Kristine. When she left Florida, she made me promise to see this trial through, and I have kept that promise. We all have. We have sat through graphic testimony and heard all of the positively gruesome details of how our girl met our end.
Can you
And I sit here today and I listen because that's what Kristine would have done. She would have sacrificed her sanity to see justice done. And so I have done the same. Losing Kristine has been like loving Kristine. It's changed the courses of our life forever. The loss of Kristine is a wound that will never heal. Never. Losing Kristine is like losing the sun. It encompasses you and swallows you whole. Death is difficult, loss is difficult, but losing someone to murder is foul and vicious and soul crushing. With one exception, I would not wish it on my worst enemy. The prosecution has won this trial, but I assure you, the family, friends, and loved ones of Kristine and Melton have only lost.
Samantha, now I just want to go through a few pictures.
Oh my dear God, you guys, that was really hard to listen to. Whew. I think some of it is personal to me, but I think it'd be hard for anyone for like personal reasons. But again, I think it was just hard to listen to in general. Okay, so before we see the photos, MS Girl, it's on the bottom of the screen right there. It's just send it to alexerickson@gmail. Whew. Oh, I love you, Woofy. Sorry. I just wanted to respond to a comment in the chat regarding, where are you at? Miss London, regarding the calls that Jen and I put out, the Letitia calls. So, sometimes I know that it's tough for people and they do want to hear without commentary, and we actually did post them. They are available without commentary, and in the future, anything that we get, we will share without commentary as well. So there is a playlist on Jen's channel. That's the no commentary playlist, and on my channel, there's a playlist with commentary. But yeah, you can go and play through that playlist and you won't have any commentary. Okay, let's keep going. Whew.
That's my godmother and Kristine. At Christmas, they always wore matching aprons. Kristine loves Halloween. This is her and some friends as the Golden Girls.
Is Kristine on the top right?
In the yellow, yes.
Oh my God, the costume.
That is my Kristine and my son, her godchild. It hangs in his room so that he remembers what she looks like. That is a group of us. We went to concerts every year for probably 20 years.
The top photograph, is that Stephanie in the background, Stephanie
Yes,
Johnson?
ma'am. Yes.
And then the one right behind Kristine Melton, is that your sister?
Yes.
All right.
That's Kristine and Monty. That was her cat, the one who sat next to her crumpled body.
And is Monty the fat cat we saw in the crime scene photos?
Yes. It's Kristine's family, her brother, her mom, her dad. That's her on the bottom, blonde and jumping. It's Kristine on Easter with bunny ears on, with another child who loved her and who will never see her again. It's our family. It's me and my sister, Kristine, our grandmother, and our aunt. There she is. Look at her. Look at her. You can see it. I know you can.
Thank you
Oh
so
my
much.
God. Let me go back to that.
There she is. Look at her. Look at her. You can see it. I know you can.
Thank you, Samantha.
Wow. Was he, the way I it sucks because we couldn't see, but it sounded like he was like looking away and she's like, no, look at her. Whew. And Miss London, I understand. By the way, though, I'm Alex and Jen is my friend, but yeah, that's okay. Okay. Jeez. That was tough, you guys.
Thank you. You can sit down.
So now we have Zane, Diane's son. Jeez, not going to be easy either. Let's go ahead and go listen to it.
Judge State would like to call him Zane Romero.
He's the one that testified, right?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please introduce yourself to ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name?
I'm Zane Romero.
Do you know or did you know a young lady by the name of Diane Ruiz?
Yes, that was my mom.
And is there anything that you would like for the jury to consider here today as it relates to this matter?
I wrote a letter.
Can you please be so kind?
My name is Zane Romero. I'm a 19-year-old college student going for my bachelor degree in graphic design. I'm Diane Ruiz's youngest child. I was only 14 years old when she passed. Just starting my freshman year of high school, she was so excited to see me grow up. And so proud of what I was growing into. She supported me in all my dreams and only tried to help and uplift me when taking on new risks and challenges. My father unfortunately passed away when I was only 11 years old. My mother was all I had left. I was barely 2 months into my first year of high school when she passed away. I was in marching band, and the week prior, she was telling me how excited she was to go and watch me perform at that weekend's football game.
Hold on. I do have it sped up, and I want to take it down just for this. I think that, even if it keeps us here an extra couple minutes, that is okay. Okay. Sorry.
She would have been her first time seeing me perform because that was my first year in that marching band. She never got to see me perform, and I never got the experience of seeing her in the crowd. My mother supported my dreams and only ever wanted me to succeed in life. She always reassured me that my life wasn't going to end if I got a C in math. She always made sure that all the hard work I was putting into my education wasn't going unnoticed. She would always show up with random gifts that helped me and succeeded in my life for what I needed. When I was younger, I originally wanted to be a photographer. My mother went out of her way to find me a professional beginner photographer. She knew I wanted to print my photos, and she bought me a printer with photo paper. I no longer have those dreams, but I still constantly use those items. She was raised in a tough home environment and only ever wanted to give me and my brother nothing like that. She wanted us to grow up in a loving home and for us to be happy. My mother was a single mother who only ever wanted not only for her family, but everybody around her to be happy. My mother's life dream was to be able to get married and raise her family. She was so close to getting everything she wanted. I was forced to move states to better accommodate for what I needed for my education. I moved far away from Florida because I grew up everywhere with my mom just to have her be stripped away on a random weekday. I tried my best to avoid going back. She was really excited for my future because she knew I was going to achieve big things, and I refused to disappoint her, even in death, because it helps me push on every day. I would like to share some achievements I've been able to accomplish. I did 3 years of marching band. We achieved superiors in the blue ribbon all throughout high school. My senior year, I achieved my high school's most principal award. Sophomore year, I won my first scholarship based off of my art portfolio. I graduated high school. I got accepted into all the colleges I applied and also received a full ride scholarship from one. My senior year, I received the John Phillips User Award for marching band. I got my driver's license. I received my first car. During COVID, I ran a whole jewelry business for 2 years at 16. I got my first job. I'm getting my first apartment July. I'm a year ahead in my college education, and I have my first internship as a graphic designer.
My God, you guys, I got to take a pause for a second. I told you guys it was going to be tough testimony all around, but what a smart young man And I can imagine that his mother would be very proud of him. I'm sorry. Whew. I'm trying to keep it together. This is tough. And the first one caught me off guard. I wasn't necessarily expecting some of the things that in that. So, okay, let's keep listening.
We listed 13 out of many, both big and small
Oh, yeah.
achievements. All 13 of these.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say thank you to Ra for gifting. Just getting emotional, and it's making me I can't even think straight. So thank you so much, Ra, for gifting 5 memberships. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to rewind it about 10 seconds because I don't want to miss a second.
I'm a year ahead in my college education, and I have my first internship as a graphic designer. I only listed 13 out of many, both big and small achievements. All 13 of these achievements my mom didn't get the chance to see me accomplish. My mother will never get the chance to see me get married, get to see me graduate college as a first generation graduate, get to see me get my first real job. During college, I was sent to the ER for the first time. I got into my first car accident, and the only person I wanted to call was my mom, or how she went missing. I trusted my gut so much. Everything told me that she was coming home, and I haven't been able to trust her again. Or how when I was told she was missing while walking home from my bus stop, or how everybody in my town knew that she was dead before me, or how on my 15th birthday I almost killed myself because I couldn't bear the idea without turning 15 without my mom. I lived 5 years without her, and not a single day has gone by where I haven't been able to not think about her. My mother only had love in her heart, only wanted the best for me, and nothing that happened to her was ever deserved, and she just wanted to live a normal life.
Did you know where your mom was walking to that morning?
Yeah, to work.
And where did your mom work?
The Moose Lodge.
Okay. And how long had your mom been working at the Moose Lodge?
Like 3 years.
And did you know what your mom did for the Moose Lodge?
Okay, we have to pause for commentary, and it's really hard to find a place because I don't want to miss a second. I don't want to be insensitive. I want to be, as respectful as possible. It's hard to listen to that, but I do have to say I agree with you guys. One of you had mentioned, hold on, I wish they would show Wade's face. Me too. That's like, really, especially because, you're hearing, like we heard Kristine's cousin, look at her. So it seemed like he wasn't. And I'm sure I can just imagine how he looks, just bored to damn death, ready to get it over with. I can just imagine. But yeah. And then with Patreon, how is it free? I don't know why some people have trouble like finding the free membership, because I need to recreate it on my phone for me to truly understand where it's going wrong. But I think you have to go as if you want to become a member, but then join the free membership tier, not just the because there's one tier and then a free tier. So the free tier is where I upload all the documents we go over, things like that. I want to make sure to always keep those on the free tier. And then the other one is just for little extra things, a video series that I do called True Crime Hot Takes, and also the live streams. So, but there is a completely free member tier. And like I said, that's where the documents and things like that are. And I don't know, it seems like a few people have had trouble figuring out how to make that work. So I'll take some time and try to like recreate it on my phone to see exactly the steps of that, so that I'm better equipped to answer those questions. But okay.
She was a bartender.
Did she also volunteer at the Moose Lodge?
Yeah.
Did you know whether or not they performed any benefits?
Not any benefits. She would just be there for fun.
And did you know that the Moose Lodge was for the concern of children and for the elderly?
Yes.
And your mom was very active in that particular community, is that right?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to see a series of photographs in this particular case?
Yes.
And you're familiar with those photographs?
Yes.
I'd like to direct your attention to the screen there at the
Have these
right.
been admitted?
We are moving states exhibits PP3, PowerPoint 3, and evidence at this time, Judge. They've
Any
been
objections?
discussed with defense counsel.
All right, to be admitted.
Thank you, Judge. Merle, what are we looking at in this photograph?
That's me and my mom at the Moose Lodge on Mother's Day. I don't like pictures taken of myself, and that was the only picture I let her take as a Mother's Day gift. That's my grandpa and my mom when she was a kid.
Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Look at that. Oh. I love that
When she was a kid. That's
Let me remove the closed captioning, guys. Sorry, I just want to take it off so we can see. Okay.
my mom when she was younger. That's my
She is
mom and my brother while they were at Disney. That is my mom working at the Moose. That is my mom. I'm gonna assume at a bar. I don't know where. That was a picture I took of my mom working an event with her at the Moose.
So you're working an event.
It was for something. The camera she got me, she asked me to take pictures, and I just went to go take them. That's my mom and my mom and my brother. I took that picture of my mom and her boyfriend on this trail we went on. And that's my mom at the Moose.
again where she was going that day when
I have no further questions for this.
CB. This is the very first. So this must be day one, but I'm not sure because I suppose it could have started like at the end of the day on day one. So we had the opening statements and then immediately to these witnesses. After this is all of the expert witnesses. There's a forensic psychologist. It's 3 doctors to go over his mental health. And like I said, I'm going to go in first and because most of this I've waited to watch until we're together. But I think that it'd be better if I kind of go in first and pick out the best parts. I certainly do want to hear about the examinations he got and the conclusions they came to. But I know that there is probably it's like 6 hours, like I said earlier, maybe 5. It's several hours though. And that would be long for you guys to sit through, but I'm definitely open for feedback. So you guys give me your thoughts on that.
But at this time, the state of rest.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break. Let's send you back to the jury room for a few minutes.
All rise.
Okay. Court resumes after a brief recess. So this is where the neuropsychologist comes up. 1 second. So C. Carter, if you're having trouble accepting the gifted membership, if you have a free membership, you probably need to go in and cancel that first. Like just go to your membership and cancel and then accept the free one. Because one of our friends had some trouble with that. And I think that's how they made it work. So yeah. And then the GoFundMe, how long will that be open? Because I know you guys said they were closing it. I don't know if it's still up. Let me just pull it up on the screen. Just a second. Rainbow, my little doggy's over here being loud. Just a second, you guys. So search. Support Diane. Yes. Okay. So let's go look at it. Support Diane Ruiz's 2 sons. Thank you, Tess, for sharing that. And I definitely encourage if anybody had thought about donating, now would be the time. I'm sure they could use it. Please, if you are even considering doing a membership or a super chat or something here, please take that and use it there because they're going to take it down. And it's crazy to me that after all this time, they've raised only $17,000. Man, I just wish that I was like super wealthy because I would love to help them. It just sucks. They had $100,000 goal and it's went on for months and months and months now. And they're at $17,000, but yet Wade can raise, all that money. He has one woman giving him tens of thousands of dollars for his shit. It's sick. It is so sick. I'm sorry. Let me read it to you guys though. Let's see here. All right, that is so sweet. But yeah, maybe you guys would like to help here. Here's the link again, and then let's read it. And then I'm going to let you guys go, and we're going to go over to Patreon. It will start about 5 minutes after this ends because I have to go in and add the timestamps for the live. There's only 4, so it will be quick. So on October 7th, 2019, Diane Ruiz was tragically killed while walking to work. This left behind her 2 sons, Zane Romero and Brandon C. This situation has left both kids under a huge financial strain, and they need help with medical procedures, dental work, college supplies, car upkeep, and rent. Then they had an update today. Let's look at this. Hold on. Jeez, that must be a low plane. Do y'all hear that? I'm so sorry if you do. But it seems like it's going away now. Okay, so it says today by Zane. I've received messages that people would still like to support my brother and me after the GoFundMe closes. Oh my God, look at this. I encourage anyone willing to send money to support families who lost their homes in the LA fires. But if you would like to support me, my Cash App is, we need to save this. It's Rice Grain 1204, but the I in rice is a number 1. So here, let me see if I can, it won't let me copy it. All right, hold on. Me too, Pam. I wish I did because I would love to help as well. So it's Rice Grain, GRAIN 1204 on Cash App. And then on Venmo, I don't know if this is right because it's like got a bunch of symbols after. So I'm not going to share that because I would hate for you to send it to the wrong person. Do you see like the @IT semicolon 333? Yeah, I don't know. Or if that's like a typo. So I did put the Cash App in the chat. And yeah, it's just sad to see. Let me do a search for that. Let's see. I don't think he has a GoFundMe. It wasn't his on another thing, but let's just search his name and see what comes up. Wade Wilson. Oh God, save Wade Wilson. Wow. Even though he's not, like I said, it's on another platform. There is a GoFundMe about him here. And it is not in my language, so I can't read that. We could translate it. The $5,000 goal. I would love to be able to read this. It's like save him. What? Hold on. Let me see. It won't let me copy or paste it. Oh, yes, it will. Hold on. Translate to English. We are currently collecting donations for appropriate treatment of Wade Wilson, who is currently on death row in the USA under undignified prison conditions. All donations will be sent one-to-one to the responsible persons in order to better achieve prison conditions for Wade Wilson. No one deserves so much torture in a hopeless situation. Oh, you cannot. Please help him. Help with him to show that we feel for him. Thank you. My God. Wait, let me. This is a Wade wife. Scott says this is a scam. Yeah, it makes sense. Hey, Henry, good to see you. Why are you so hateful? Prove what shit person. Judging Wade, you have no idea what he's been through. I'm sorry, but we've all sat here every day of this trial. Diane has been here every day, for sure. I remember that 100%. We know all the details of exactly what he did. I would definitely encourage you to watch it yourself as well. Oh, walk away, Renee. That's really sweet. I think if we all got together in these communities and donate $5, that will boost it by a few thousand. It absolutely would. Yeah, it's up and it can be donated to right now. Yes. Okay. So, I think Jelly and Bunny gave them $50K. I would love to know exactly what they did. I know they donated, but I didn't know what. Using Wade's likeness. It's possible for sure. I saw a fundraiser on the site called Go Get Funding that has raised almost $3,000 for him. Jesus. Okay. So if you got a message to get, like, make sure to shoot me an email right now if you want the Patreon link. See, Carter, let me know if that worked. Because if not, I can just send you to, I will send you the link for now to the live. And this way you won't miss anything this time. It'll give you some time to figure out how to cancel and rejoin with the gifted membership. Okay, you guys, it won't let me get the membership. Okay, so I'm going to email you the link to the live. Oh, Tess, that's sweet. But I got it. I'll just give them the unlisted link and maybe I can help you figure it out in the meantime. So I know if you're a free member, you have to cancel that and then try to accept it. But if it doesn't, tonight we'll work on it. I'll create another gift if we need to. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here. You know, we're going to continue into the penalty phase. We're also going to continue into his past charges. Tomorrow, though, I'm going to cover a different case and then we'll get right back to it. The Patreon live will start in about 5 to 10 minutes. Like I said, I want to add the timestamps and make sure that if anybody can't get in that has gotten a gift, they get the unlisted link to the live so they can be there. And then otherwise, thank you. Thank you for being here and listening to me. And I apologize for being late and the bumps along the way. It's tough testimony today. So people donate to anything. I have a channel about a scamming junkie. People gave her money every day. I can't with the supporting someone who's using like that. I've seen something Melissa covered similar before. But again, thank you guys for being here. I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully, we're going to talk about Stephen Stearns, a case against Stephen. And I look forward to that. There was another little short interview that was released and a couple things from the local news down there. And then I was just going to show you my timeline I created. That's something you guys can find on the free tier in Patreon. It is a timeline created solely by yours truly, not copied and pasted from somewhere, not pulled from some news organization's timeline. Now, I did take into consideration 2 different timelines done by the local news, but most of the information comes from FOIA requests, police records, things like that. It is interactive, so there are links that work with the 911 calls and different interviews that are mentioned and all of that. So if you're interested, you can join as a free member and have access to that. It's actually pinned at the top. And otherwise, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you, some of you in just a little bit, some of you later over on Melissa's. I'm going to drop her link again because I realized some of you hadn't seen the photos and stuff. And if you go to her page, you can see all of that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for everything. And yeah, have a good night. Bye. 1, 2, 3, go.